on the aviation side of things in Nigeria, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, in a tweet says it welcomes the CBN's additional $64.4 million that has been applied to blocked aviation funds. It did say it's consulting with its members to verify that those sums have been received, but still said that $700 million remains blocked in Nigeria. We are happy to have Mr. Alex Nwuba, President of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria, with us to discuss. Good morning to you, sir. Happy New Year.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you for having me on the show.
Fantastic. Always great to talk aviation with you. What do you make of what's been going on right now with the CBN trying and the IATA response?
Well, the truth is that to clear $64 million and the reputational damage done to the economy by such a sum is irreconcilable. If it was that little, it should have been done. But it is good news. It is a good reputational adjustment to the Nigerian economy to say we've paid what's verified. And what does that simply mean? Somebody sells you 1,000 T-shirts. You count 50 and you pay for the 50, you're still owing for the other 950 T-shirts. And so that money is in commercial banks. It's not at the central banks. Banks would have to bid for that, and that would make those funds available when the CBN can. So that's the issue. So everybody is saying the same thing. CBN says we've paid. I had to say, airlines are saying we've received some, and there's some hanging around someplace.
700 million is still a large amount. I don't know if we're to go at the rate of 64, it might take quite a while to pay it off. Is this year realistic, or are we looking into much further for this to be clear?
Well, it depends on what happens on the economy. The government is looking at a number of sources of generating inbound funds, including freeing up the access to remittance and a number of other solutions. So it's 700 million to an economy such as Nigeria is not a worrisome sum. It's the process by which it's been done. That's the real challenge.
What do you make of IATA's response? It sounded measured. It sounded, how did you take their response to the news?
Well, everybody's response has been the same. Let's verify first. Let's see what everybody has to say about this. He wants to know. They want to know from the airlines. Even we as associations want to know that these funds have been received. There have been many promises, and the government says we've done this. So we're really at the point of let's see. Then what next?
And speaking of what next, I wanted to get your thoughts on the announcements that have been made so far from the CBN. For one, trying to get banks to stop speculating on foreign exchange positions, and then the IMTO limits that have been removed. Since we're talking FX here, what do you make of those moves, and how that may help things down the line?
Everyone's been hedging. Banks were hedging. Individuals are hedging with keeping cash in dollars in their bank account. So the reality is everyone's been hedging. If you didn't hedge, you'd have taken a hit in the last couple of months. So really, how do we get out of this situation? We've got to see some realistic moves as to inbound inflows. There were money coming in from the African Development Bank and other multilateral institutions. Those are just additional loans. What are we doing about the core economy to ensure that we are building an enduring economic base so that we can also generate? Even in aviation, I say, look, if paying these debts doesn't mean that new debts are not being generated every day. So in reality, what are we doing as policymakers in the government to see that we can get more people to fly to Nigeria and pay in dollars so we earn more rather than we spend outbound dollars?
The market for Nigeria, though, would you say it is still an attractive market? It is still a market that is competitive as far as for international airlines flying in and out?
I think that the Nigerian market is very competitive. What is the aim of reducing the naira? Simply to make Nigerian goods more attractive. The only challenge we've had is we don't have any goods. And so Dangote Refinery will produce some goods. The challenges we're having with being able to pay for foreign-based goods will make us think some more. One of the things we talk about today is counterfeiting. Nigerians are involved in large-scale counterfeiting. But if we look back at the 70s and 80s, the Koreans, the Japanese, the Chinese were all counterfeiters until they improved their manufacturing capabilities. And so once we begin to bite the bullet on these policies that says we don't have this money, we've been living on a false economy, we don't have this money, we've got to do something within our economy, then the lower naira rate will become attractive both in terms of wage services as well as manufactured goods. We will get there. We just have to go through the pain. It's unfortunate that there are mechanisms to mitigate pain. Rather than apply those mechanisms, somebody is using that as another drain pipe. But we really can get on this situation around, and the government is making very tough, hard decisions that are necessary.
We don't seem to be talking much about diesel and prices of tickets anymore. Is that, I mean, because diesel is still at 1,000 level, is that gone? Are we done with that, or is that still the profit margins for airlines here? Is that still an issue?
Well, airlines are biting the bullet. Airlines are simply not able to, one, you're selling a ticket at a 900 naira exchange rate, and by the time you come to market, it's 1,000 naira. So you're biting the bullet. Airfares have gone. I think when there's too much pain, we stop talking and start thinking about solutions. And that's what the industry is facing. There's tremendous pain across every sector of this economy.
There was we had you the last time we talked about the national, the flagship air carrier, Nigeria Air.
Yes.
Festus Keyamo's SAN was on television talking about the fact that no local airline can become a national carrier. He said for competition reasons, that wouldn't be fair to the other ones, because if you were to designate a local airline as it, then that means that, well, you're pricing the others out. So what do you make of that? Does that make sense to you?
Let me be clear. The minister is not an aviator, but he did very well in presenting the aviation issues. His point was that he will not appoint any flag carriers because he wants to ensure that there's a fair and open competitive space. But the reality is that all airlines cannot be flag carriers. At the moment, maybe 2 or 3 airlines are equipped to be flag carriers, and that is why you have the situation of Air Peace applying to go to London and United trying for the US and other markets. And so these airlines will fly to these markets carrying the Nigerian flag. So the term is flag carrier. What government wants to do is create a formidable national carrier, which I said on this station, the last administration was creating a formidable national carrier for Ethiopian Airlines as opposed to creating one for Nigeria. And this minister has come out and said that was not a fair deal by any measure, and he will not go along with that. So what he wants to do is create a formidable national carrier, an airline that will go to these markets. But I emphasize again, from a policy standpoint, what are the key things we have to do within the economy to ensure that when we open this new stream of movement, it doesn't become a net outflow to the economy. Economics is about balance, okay? And so, for example, I gave the example at a recent presentation where I said, look, Nigerian medical services are far cheaper than many parts of the world, and we have excellent doctors. So if we focused on developing the medical sector, then Europeans will come here for treatment. That will fill our hotels, it will fill our hospitals, it will make them pay for airfares in dollars coming in. It's not so much about creating an avenue for you and I to go on London to holiday and do more shopping and do more real estate buying and all of those things. So the policy must be right. It's not just one thing. All of these issues in the economy are interconnected, and policymakers must make sure they connect the dots properly.
Okay, so speaking of collecting the dots, is the approach now from you in the private sector and others, from the IATA matter with the blocked funds to the flag carriers and everything else, is 2024 a wait and see approach for today is the first day of the second month? What's the approach for
the government wants us to ensure it's not a wait and see approach. They want us to see it as a proactive approach. Okay. And that's why you see these policy statements. And the problem with statements is that people want to wait and see on the effect. But the reality is that we can't wait. We can't afford to wait. The train is already out of the station. We're moving. What are the things we need to do? So I think that we've taken the right steps. The president took the right steps when he did away with fuel subsidy. He did away with some of these things were just eating cost. Really, the economies of the economics that allows us to pay for things we can't really afford, and begin a process of biting the bullet and actually putting in place an economy that is sustainable. So 2024 will be painful at the beginning, but will continue to improve as we go further into the year. Because Nigerians are resilient. They're not just going to lie down, play dead. They're actually going to seize this moment and turn around this economy.
If the parallel market, it's kind of gone, Naira has appreciated just a bit. I think it's about 1,393, 1,004 from 1,005, I think, on this news of what's been happening. But if we have a transparent rate that everyone can see what it is, but it moves up to 2,000, 2,500, as long as it's stable and transparent, is that what we're after here, regardless of how expensive it gets?
It is illusory to suspect that it will be stable. We are now in a downward spiral. and we haven't done the necessities to stop that spiral. And so we must take these steps. The challenge, you keep talking about the parallel market, and the minister even spoke to the parallel market when he talked about where can airlines get funds. You can't have an economy that operates on two markets, in which the one the government controls is the smaller market. So we really need to do away with the parallel market and have one foreign exchange market. And if this government has been bold to take these initiatives that have gotten us to these pain points, then we need to be bold enough to say we don't need a parallel market. We need a transparent foreign exchange market driven by the market itself. Prices driven by supply and demand, as opposed to an artificial rate, which is what the government got rid of. We got rid of with fuel. So we get to the parallel market, you get better control of monetary policy through the official market, and we will at least slow down the downward spiral of the naira, and then take the necessary steps within the economy to increase our capacity to produce and sell.
Indeed, indeed. Positive notes to end our conversation on. Mr. Alex Nwuba, President, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria. Always a pleasure talking aviation with you, sir. Thank you so much for
joining us. Thank you for having me on the show.